Sometimes the question is more important than the answer. It's important to ask yourself who's doing what and who's asking what. Because sometimes you'll be surprised by the answer when you actually ask that question and ponder upon it. And I suggest that when you ask yourself that question, you strip everything away. Your identity, everything you think you know about yourself, your name, where you're from, where you were born, your mother's name, your brother, sister, if you have any aunt, uncle, grandparents, your life identity, your traumas, insecurities. Strip that away just for one moment. Just for one moment, and ask yourself the question you want to ask yourself. That knowingness, that feeling to go within, the feeling to go deeper, that you're more than what you are, that it's more to life than what you're doing. That's consciousness. And the best way to describe consciousness, if in a dream, when you have a dream sometimes and things are happening, and then sometimes there's nothing. How are you aware to when nothing is happening, right? Well, when we sleep, it's called a REM, rapid eye movement, right? When you sleep, that's usually in a dream state. And in that dream state, you're, exploring your deepest fears or your deepest anxieties or your deepest regrets or your, all these things or what you want to happen in these dreams. These things are being explored and being, thought about and being, ventured back into sometimes. But in a, deep sleep, there's nothing. It's just blankness. But even when the mind is asleep and when it's shut off, there's still a presence that I dreamt about nothing. There's consciousness sitting there. So the consciousness is always present no matter where you are. That's consciousness. It's always there. Even when you're not present, consciousness is present. So the mind is always, distracting you from the consciousness. So it's important to ask yourself who's asking what and who's doing what. Because the mind has this thing that it will try to protect itself from outside forces, things that it doesn't know. It will try to rationalize from things that it does know already and try to make sense of things that it doesn't know already, and try to compartmentalize and say, okay, based off what I already know about life and the information I've already gathered, this is what I think, this is what this person is saying, or this is what this situation is based off of what I already know. And the mind sometimes, when you bring in the ego and the pride, will block out things that it doesn't know and say, no, I know this. This is what I know. This is how it is based off of what I already know. The mind has ways of protecting itself and clinging itself to the physical existence, the body, and what you already know, your identity, and what has been told to you or shown to you and given to you as your physical identity. The mind will try to cling to that desperately, to have some type of control, necessity, some type of need for you. The consciousness is always existing. The consciousness purpose is to reveal truths to you, because be clear that the truth is a distant memory. So when you hear something profound, or when you hear something, that is so, oh my God, like when you hear it, it's of course. When you hear it, it's of course, because it's that inner knowing of, oh wow, like, and you don't have to look it up, you don't have to question it, it's just like, and that's why I say there's no such thing as spiritual or non-spiritual. We're all spiritual beings experiencing a human experience that's just closer and further away from consciousness, right? So when you're closer to consciousness, when you hear truth, you don't question it, you're just like, of course that's the answer. Like, it's almost like you knew it already, but somebody saying it reaffirmed what you already knew. But when you're further away from consciousness, then there's the questions, the doubts, the physical proof needed, the science, the what you already know, what you don't know, and you need to look it up, and or what if they're lying? But when you're closer to it, you just know, that's the truth, right? That's the truth, and you don't need any outside validation. You don't need any external sources to validate that for you. And that's the beautiful thing about consciousness and about truth. You trust yourself more. You trust your intuition more. You trust what you feel more, instead of, oh, I need to, go to this scientist, this doctor. I need to validate it. I need to validate what I'm feeling. That's when you don't trust yourself. You don't trust your intuition. You don't trust your consciousness, because it's always in the back of your mind telling you. So when we say that gut feeling, that's consciousness. Always telling us what direction to go. When you know what to do, now do it. Your mind is going to put you in another direction that protects its identity that you feel is you, and also, helps complete and further the narrative that your life, like whether you believe you're this or you're that or you're this, your mind is going to create things and put you in situations and refuse situations in order to keep that identity and that self narrative alive for yourself. It's when you strip all that away and you practice this. And it's harder to do when you have such an attachment to the body, when you have such of a hold onto the physical existence. I'm not saying it's not important to be aware of your physical existence and history, because I study history, but it's important to be able to strip those things away as well and realize these things are not you, that the body ages, the body decays, the body withers, but one thing is a constant: you, consciousness, always existing, always repeating itself, always trying to get to the truth, which is revealing itself. If there is any purpose, right? I don't believe in such thing as purpose, but if there is any purpose on this planet as human beings, it is to reveal ourselves, unlearn what we already know, and reveal the consciousness, reveal the truth, and get to the root of who we are, right? And that is why I believe in reincarnation and other things like that, because it's always a constant thing of, getting closer and closer to that one truth, that one consciousness, that one, first your consciousness, and then getting available to that one consciousness. There's this theory that there is no duality. And while I have my, positives and negatives with it, the thought of, consciousness is one. So there would be no duality, because talking to somebody, you're talking to yourself, because it is all one. That's where the non-duality will come in. But if you look at, what the human mind or what science says is, duality, positives, negatives, good, evil, good, bad, right, wrong. Now, be clear, I've also stripped away good, bad, right, wrong, good, evil, all these things. I've stripped all those things away. That is why I'm able to, see non-duality, even though that's something that I've been taught all my life, that there is duality, there is yin and yang, and I do believe in that due to Taoism. So that's where I hold on to that, because based, like I said, the mind, what it already knows. I know about Taoism, Buddhism, all this type of stuff. So when you bring up non-duality, it goes against. So that's another thing with the mind. When the mind hears something that goes against what it's already knowing, it's going to block it out. It's going to say you're wrong and try to invalidate it in some way, and try to search for things that validate what it already knows, right? Instead of listening or even accepting some form of truth that's outside of what it knows. So I'm always open. I'm always ears to the ground. I'm always heart open. I'm always, heart on my sleeve even. But it's important that you ask yourself these questions. Who's asking what? Who's doing what? Who wants to go deeper? Who wants to stay restrained into the narrative, into the identity that I have created for myself? Because be clear, I have created this for myself. And things like therapy, I do think they're vital, but at the same time, if you cling to your body experience and you cling to who you are and your identity, yes, you're going to need therapy for certain things. And therapy is just talking about things, talking things out with somebody, whether it's a professional or non-professional, just expressing how things made you feel, what happened, you looking at it from another person's point of view, looking at it from a non-victim's point of view, and just expressing, right? That's important to do if you are so attached to your, physical experience of what has happened to you. If you believe that life is happening to you and not responding to you, then it's going to be very hard to do an exercise where you strip everything away just for a moment. Because in that moment where you're stripping everything away, there's a moment of nothingness. There's a moment of blank, just consciousness, just being there with it. And when you're there, it can be scary, because a lot of people never been there before. So they don't know how to take that space, that just infinite space of what consciousness is, of that already knowing, of that just blankness, right? That nothingness, that space people fear, because all they know is what they know. So when you bring up nothingness, space, and just be nothing, and I don't like how this feels, right? I don't like this. Let me go back to what I know. And there's fear there, and there's fear of the unknown there. There's fear of losing yourself. I promise you, if you strip everything away, everything will be as it was when you come back. When you come back to that moment of what your life is and the surroundings. Your past will still be your past, your trauma will still be your trauma, all this. But when you get closer to that consciousness, there's more peace that lies there. You're not searching for peace. You're not doing things that, bring you peace as much as you're always in peace. The peace is there with you, and everything you do is in peace, and nothing, instead of this thing is distracting me, nothing is distracting you. There is no boredom there. It's just consciousness. And while I have moments of those, I also have moments of me being in my physical form and, reacting and responding to things going around me, because there's only two things you're in control of: your actions and your reactions to other people's actions. So I'm taking note of that, and I'm being more conscious of it and more aware to my actions and my reactions to other actions. That's why non-judgment is such a big thing for me. That's why openness is such a big thing for me, because the more open you are, the more you say I don't know, the more willing you are to accept truths and be present for when consciousness is ready to show its face.